This is some very important information that you guys are all going to want to know before Yuta releases. So as we all know, Yuta is coming on 11/24, but before that, tomorrow we are getting a Jujutsu Kaisen 0 gacha that does not have Yuta on it. Do not make the mistake of summoning on this gacha right here thinking that Yuta is going to be there. I can already see people doing that. Please, for the love of everything, here's your warning. Do not do that. So this banner right here is going to feature a new Inumaki and a new Panda. We're going to talk about how good they are, where they place on the tier list, and whether or not this banner is actually worth summoning on or not. But long story short, I will tell you right now, you probably do not want to summon on this banner, or at the very least, you do not want to waste cubes. Now, alongside this gacha banner that comes out tomorrow, we are also going to get the first event, which is a story event for Jujutsu Kaisen 0. If you complete the missions for this event, you will get 10 free tickets towards this banner right here, where you will be able to at least hop in with one multi for free and potentially pull one, if not both of these characters, if you're lucky enough. So just don't waste cubes on this banner. There will be free pulls on this banner, and the characters I don't think are all that worth it. Besides that, additionally, starting tomorrow, we are also going to be able to obtain recollection bits for this memory or recollection right here. It is a fairly decent one, but it's not the greatest. I'd say it's kind of middle of the road. There are better ones, there are worse ones. So let me show you what it can do, and then we'll talk about where it kind of places on the tier list. So it's called Curse Each Other, Fight with All of Your Might. And if we scroll down and look at the abilities, when command skill or ultimate skill is activated, increases all allies damage dealt by 5% for one turn. I don't think that's the greatest, because there's an SR recollection that does the same thing, but it does 10% for 2 turns, and it's a little bit better. And then down here, unlocked at limit break level 1, at the start of the 4th turn from the start of the battle, increases all allies break damage by 10% for 2 times. That's fairly decent. Not the craziest thing, but okay. And then if you limit break it to level 3, it goes up to 10% damage. So it's an okay free-to-play recollection. I do recommend keeping it, limit breaking it if you guys are free to play or light spenders, or even if you're just a collector, you're going to want to keep it, right? Don't trade it in, because it is a limited recollection and you never know when it could come in handy for you. But with that said, I do have to point out the SR recollection that's very similar, and I think this one is better, and it's a free to play recollection as well. Death by Wasp, if you guys haven't seen this one yet, when command skill or ultimate skill is activated, increases all allies damage dealt by 10% for 2 turns. If you upgrade it to limit break level 3, it's 15% for 2 turns, so already a lot better damage than this one right here. And the only thing that makes this particular recollection better than the SR one right here is that this skill is not as good as the break damage that you can give to all allies, because this skill at the start of the turn, if own HP is 50% or below, recovers own cursed energy by 20. So very similar recollections, just one's an SSR limited and one is an SR free to play recollection, both of them being free to play, but this one's just a limited recollection right here. So keep that in mind when you guys are getting this recollection and thinking about investing in it. I think it's worth keeping. I don't think it's worth necessarily putting resources in to it to level it up. Now, going back to the topic of this banner right here, once again, I recommend do not pull on this banner. The only reason I could see potentially maybe pulling on this banner is because these characters will have rated up drop rates in the story events, which will allow you to farm things more efficiently and not use so much AP. But at the same time, it's still not worth it, because if we look at the rated up characters with bonuses, these 3 characters, if you have any of these, the OG Maki, Inumaki, or Panda that were available in the base summons, you can run these characters and get the bonuses for the drop events. You do not need these characters to get the additional drops. Okay, so just keep that in mind. It's not really worth it. Also, we have these recollections here. You can run the free-to-play recollection and also get bonus drops. So just don't summon for these characters. But if that still hasn't convinced you that because you can use these characters not to summon on these characters, let me show you where these characters rank on the tier list, and let me show you what their abilities are. So starting with the abilities of this guy, Inumaki, he is interesting to say the least. So his skill 1, Get Twisted, deals 106.3% Jujutsu damage to the selected enemy, decreases the enemy's Taijutsu damage by 5.7% for 3 turns. He sacrifices HP. If you get it up to level 10, it's only 7.5% Taijutsu damage reduced for 3 turns. Like, 3 turns is a lot, but that's not a lot of percentage, and it's only Taijutsu damage. If it was both Taijutsu and Jujutsu, or just in general damage dealt, I think it would be better, but it's not that crazy. His skill 2 is called Kelp. attracts the selected enemy's attacks for 1 turn, grants counter status to self for 2 turns. So yeah, this one's a tank Inomaki, which is interesting. He's a defender, right? So he can draw aggro for a turn and then gets counter for 2 turns. Counter status when targeted by an enemy's melee attack 1 time per turn, only once per turn, so if there's multiple enemies he'll still get hit. Deals 100% of damage equal to 66% Jujutsu as counter damage, and he sacrifices his HP to do this. It's kind of counterintuitive for him to be a tank and hurt himself at the same time, but that's just my opinion. And then upgrading it to level 10 just increases the amount of damage he does with his counter status, so not the craziest thing. His skill 3 is called Explode. It deals 120.8% Jujutsu damage to all enemies. He sacrifices 3 HP, so an AoE on a defender type unit is not it. Yeah, and all it does when you upgrade it is give you more damage. So, yep, not anything too crazy. And then the ultimate is called Crumble Away. Deals 380.7% Jujutsu damage to the selected enemy. Decreases the selected enemy's ultimate count gauge by 2. This is the most useful thing in his entire kit. That's actually okay. And he sacrifices 5% HP. At level 10, it just increases your overall amount of damage. This is the one thing that gives him somewhat of a use in the game. So I will say that, but I think the rare Inomaki is leaps and bounds above this character, so almost definitely not worth summoning on. And then his auto skills, Throat Medicine at the start of each turn if own HP is below 35%, recovers own HP by 15%, but it's only a 60% chance for that to actually apply, so keep that in mind. So as bad as Inomaki looks, Panda's worse. Okay, so Panda. Let's talk about him. He's an attacker, so they've kind of switched roles from what you would expect. His skill 1 is called Panda Straight, deals 105.6% melee taijutsu damage to the selected enemy. That's it, just pure damage, not anything too crazy. And then at skill 2, Wall Breaking, deals 120.1% melee taijutsu damage to the selected enemy, increases the selected enemy's taijutsu damage received by 20.1% for 3 turns. At level 10, it's only 26.4%, not a big enough increase, and once again, only taijutsu damage is kind of lackluster. Skill 3 is Panda Rush, deals 271.9% melee taijutsu damage to the selected enemy for 5 hits. It's literally just a damage skill though. It's pretty much the same thing SSR Maki suffers from. The fact that he doesn't do any buffs or debuffs or anything really besides just straight damage makes him not that great. And then his ultimate is Panda Tackle, deals 220.1% melee taijutsu damage to all enemies. It is an AoE, but it's just taijutsu damage and only damage and nothing else, and then no auto skills. So like, yeah, he's kind of booty cheeks. Also, I kind of forgot that Maki was on this banner too because she's not in the featured image, but this new SR Maki is also on the banner and she's also not worth pulling for. So her skill 1 is called Low Swing, deals 100% melee taijutsu damage to the selected enemy, increases the selected enemy's taijutsu damage received by 10% for 3 turns. Like, once again, it's just very similar to like what you saw with Panda, but she's a defender type unit for that skill. And then skill 2, Bring It On, increases own taijutsu damage by 20.7% for 3 turns, increases own break damage by 45.7% for 3 turns. This is a little bit better, gives her a little bit more viability than Panda because she can increase her damage, but really not the craziest thing because it doesn't make sense to put damage skills on a defender type unit. But yeah, okay. And then skill 3, Whirling Slash, if I could speak, deals 85.5% melee taijutsu damage to all enemies. An AoE skill, decreases all enemies taijutsu damage by 10% for 3 turns. Once again, all these characters are just messing with taijutsu damage. It's not as good as like damage in general or jujutsu damage, which is majority of what like enemies use is jujutsu damage, so it's not that crazy. And then the ultimate is Continuous Whirling Slash, deals 160.0% melee taijutsu damage to all enemies. So just literally damage skills on a defender type unit. Makes no sense. No auto skills, nothing else. So yeah, Maki is equally as bad as the others. And if this still isn't enough to convince you guys to skip this banner coming up and save for Yuta, because that's all we've been talking about for the past month, right? Let me show you the tier list. So this is the JP tier list that I always show you guys. We have the double S tier up here with all the best characters, Yuta being at the top of the tier list, right? Along with Gojo, who everybody knows is really good. And then as we scroll down, we're looking for those SR characters, right? So still not even in S tier. This is where these Nishimiya and the SR Kaido go. Not in A tier, and then, or A plus tier rather, and then down here in A tier and B tier is where you'll find them. And the JP tier list only goes to A and B tier. There is no C and D tier. So this is might as well be your like D and F tiers right here. So in A tier, we have Inomaki down here, very, very low, on the same level as Megami and Maki. I told you they're pretty similar, all three of these characters here. So he's has some uses, like I said, because of his ult, so that puts him in A tier. If he didn't have his ultimate use to remove the ultimate gauge of enemies, I definitely think he'd be down here in B tier. But literally because he has that one move, it makes him a little bit higher than Panda, and then Panda is just so absolutely freaking useless that he's down here in B tier. So, and I just want to point out that in addition to Panda and Inumaki, we have Maki, this one down here in B tier, even lower than her SSR counterpart. So the SSR one is at least higher than her SR counterpart, I guess, but yeah, don't worry, eventually we'll get a good SR Maki in the game. Hopefully that convinces you guys not to be summoning on this banner. Once again, I just gotta remind you guys, Yuta is not going to be on this banner, so don't summon on this banner. Wait your 2 more days. One of the best characters in the game is coming out. You will get free tickets towards this banner if you do want to try to collect these characters, or at the very least, wait until you've gotten Yuta to go back and summon on this banner. But honestly, just save your cubes, in my opinion, for the next banner, because we do have Geto coming out after Yuta on 11/29, and this character is actually pretty good as well. I don't know why they're releasing them. It's so close together, man. It's gonna be so hard for people to save and summon, but I do recommend if you have like 1 or 2 multis left after Yuta, you might just toss 1 or 2 at Geto, because he's actually fairly decent. He's not the best character, but he is decent, right? On the tier list, he is S tier, so he's just 3 tiers down, but he's still fairly okay. So let me know what you guys are going to do down in the comments. Hopefully I've convinced you to save on that banner. Hopefully you don't make that mistake, and I can't wait to see when the banner does come out and I come back to this and see the comments that somebody made that mistake, but I hope that does not happen to you. If you guys enjoyed the video, please consider going down there, hitting that like button, hitting that subscribe button, and thank you guys so much for watching. Peace.